Hey guys, I hope you can hear me. So today we're going to talk about the narcissist hypnosis and gibberish. So the first thing, which I'm going to go straight into, is the perception control. How narcissists control your perception. And David Icke, which is a conspiracy person, conspiracy realist, he calls himself that. Probably a journalist who doesn't have who's uncensored. So he gives a very good description of this perception control. So if you'd like to watch the full video, I encourage you to. But this is basically just a brief minute of what perception control looks like.
Where does human behavior come from? It comes from human perception. If I have a certain perception of an event or a situation, I'll behave towards it in a certain way. If I have a different perception of that situation, I'll behave towards it in a different way. So from perception comes behavior. Where does perception come from? It comes from information received. Whether it's a personal experience, which is a form of information, whether it's a newspaper, Facebook post, or whatever, it's information received. Now, if you go deep in the shadows, beyond the politicians, you reach that level of this web where they understand, A, how reality works, they just don't want us to know, and B, how the mind works, how psychology works. And what we're looking at, because it's a few manipulating so many, the only way that you can achieve that is by controlling the perceptions of the many and by dividing and ruling the many as well. But you've got to control the perceptions of the many. And to do that, you control information. And what this process of the internet and these internet giants, near monopolies, that process can be simply explained. And it can be explained why up to relatively recently, the internet was censorship free. My God, not anymore. And why your Facebooks and your Googles and Twitters and stuff and Amazons were censorship free, and now suddenly they aren't. This is the process towards that goal of complete control of information, thus complete control of human perception, thus control of human behavior. This is the process.
So what he's saying is the people who control the internet controls the information that you receive, and because you receive certain information, it shapes your mind, it shapes your belief, it shapes your values, it shapes your identity. And when it shapes your identity, it forms your behavior, and you embody the ideology that they feed into you. You're essentially becoming programmed as one of their machines, because they are selectively feeding you with the right adverts, with the right TV series, with the right entertainment, with a certain content that makes you think a certain way, that makes you believe certain things, that corrupts you in a very specific way. So and they do this in a very covert way, so that you will not even realize that you are being mind controlled, basically. And the narcissist, this is very similar to what covert narcissists do. So this is what I want to look into in this live stream. So the next thing I want to look at is this advert, which I've seen a lot of times on my YouTube channel. Not when I'm watching YouTube videos. This guy has appeared many times on all of these adverts, and because it's always 5 seconds long before you get to skip, you get drawn into it. Within the first 5 seconds, they get to appeal themselves to you. And the way they appeal themselves to you is by neuro-linguistic programming. So the way they do it is by creating a certain gesture that you are familiar to, that they have familiarized you to, or creating a gesture and a movement pattern, or a certain way of speaking, a certain verbal pattern that is very intriguing, that invokes your curiosity, that makes you subconsciously want to keep watching. that attracts your attention basically. So they can do this by twitching in certain ways, twitching their faces, or they're moving their body in a very awkward way that makes you curious. Like, I've never seen this before. Like what is this about? And because they're so unique and so special that you want to like figure them out, so to speak. You want to figure them out and you want to see what all this is about. So within the span of the first 5 seconds, they are able to do all of these things that makes you want to keep watching. Another way they appeal to you is by invasion, by invading you, by breaking your boundaries, by being very close to the camera, speaking so invasively that you feel this enmeshment. I call this business flirting. So it's almost like when you are speaking to a salesman, or when you are dealing business with someone, and they are trying to propose something. They are trying to propose something to you. They are trying to sell you something. Which is essentially what adverse is about. So they get into your headspace. They invade you. They are very intrusive in a way, some of them, but they invade you and they make you believe what they believe at that moment. They basically are enmeshed to you, right? And when they are enmeshed to you, they are more able to manipulate how you think and your decisions and everything. So this is what I call the business seduction, where they violate you, and then they make you think that their identity is part of your identity, and so whatever they think, whatever they believe, becomes part of you, and that influences you in a way which I feel is very wrong in a sense, because if you want to influence someone, the right way to go about it is to provide your content and then tell them like a lot of people, like there are quite a lot of people who still do this, and I still believe that there are good people out there. So the right way to do it is to present your content in a way that tells people, look, this is what I've got. Believe it what you will, do with it what you will, believe it or not, that's your decision, it's your judgment, it's your choice to make. It's not mine. My job is just to present you with this information, and if you want to buy what I'm selling, if you want to believe it or not, that is on you, right? You have the free will. And I'm not giving it to you. I'm just respecting the fact that you have the choice. You have the right to choose for yourself, to believe what you will, to form your own identity, right? To make your own judgments. So the job of the business person is basically just to present, not to intrude and invade and impose on you, so much so that you feel like you need to kind of just submit, right? So this is basically these adverts are basically a mind control strategy that makes you submit to anything, that breaks your boundaries, chip away at your self-esteem, that weakens you so that you become more susceptible, so that it dumbs you down, so that it becomes more susceptible to any ideology that is being presented to you, so that you just kind of just accept whatever that's being given to you, and the like. So just want to make sure that I'm still live. Okay, right. So let's get into this advert, which all right, let's just get into it.
I have a question for you. Is it possible for an ordinary person to have multiple streams of income? Okay? The average millionaire has at least 3 streams of income, at least, right? I was thinking, is it possible for an ordinary person to do it? So what I want to do today is I want to give you an extra stream of income, okay? I want to give you an extra stream of income. And this extra stream of income is easy to set up with minimal capital, okay? So it's e-commerce, right? I'm doing a free online class right now. All you have to do is just click sign up to attend it, and I'll show you exactly step by step how you can create an extra stream of income for yourself, okay? So just click sign up now. I'll see you there. It's free. It's time for you to get started.
Okay, there's a bunch of things over there. So I just want to get through this quick because I have a lot of other stuff I want to share. But so basically, the most obvious thing that a lot of business people do is they point their fingers, and it's very common these days. And sometimes people do it because they have to, because they feel like they need to, make a living. So sometimes they are doing it out of a normal good intention. They're not intentionally trying to force you into buying their product or whatever, but they are doing it because they want to, they want to make a living. So it's fine. But then if you're doing it way too much, and you're forcing everyone to buy your product when you're not even delivering, as you can see later in the comments, there are a lot of people saying it's a scam, and they don't get, they emailed him and they didn't reply, and the services are terrible, and the services are really bad, and a lot of people says it's scam, and they don't, you know they don't get, they don't find the service helpful. So it's if you're not doing your job and you're forcing it upon someone, that's not right. But if your motivations is right, it's fine. But then I still believe that it's better to respect people's boundaries, because if you keep imposing on someone, then they become weaker, and they become more susceptible to other forms of oppression, and then they lose their identity. So I don't think it's ever wise to do that, as a business person, to tear away at people's boundaries. So anyways, the one of the ways that he do this is he point at someone in a very close way. The very first thing is he's super close to the camera, super close, and he's moving in a way that gestures that he's your best friend, that he has your best interest at heart, that he's your lover almost. The way he moves and everything is very, it's very intrusive. It's almost like he's showing his private self. He's being his most unseen self, like he's being unfiltered almost. It's like he's naked. He's being very vulnerable and naked to you, so that you would see how honest he is or whatever. And another thing is he keeps pointing at you.
Right? I was
And
thinking, is it possible for an ordinary person to do it? So what I want to do today is I want to give you an extra stream of income, okay?
you see, he keeps pointing and pointing, and keeps going right through the camera and grabbing you. He keeps going through the camera. So another thing is his eye movement, if you can see.
I want to give you an extra stream of income. And this extra stream of income is easy to set up with minimal capital, okay? So it's e-commerce, right? I'm doing a free online class right now. All you have to do is just click sign up to attend it, and I'll show you exactly.
Did you see how his eye darted sometimes over there? Because that is kind of a diversion. So his body language and his movement and his hand gestures and his face and everything is very intrusive, and is very going through the camera, grabbing you, and like basically seducing you, right? But then his eye is kind of diverting in that way, showing that he's not interested in you sometimes, so that you believe that, oh, he's making a point, he's matter of fact, he's being matter of fact, he's being professional, he's credible, and all of those things. But oh my gosh, it's very annoying, because it comes up a lot on YouTube, on the videos, and it's very obvious that it's I don't want to say it's a scam, but a lot of people say it's a scam, and a lot of people said that they have tried the service and it's terrible, and they don't deliver. But I don't want to say it's a scam. I just want to say that it's very obvious how how they try to seduce you into buying their product. The strategy, the corrupt strategy that they are using. Within the span of less than a minute, right? Within the span of less than a minute, I feel so violated, to be honest. And and another thing he did was the word online that he said, right? He said it in a very weird, like crooked way, and he purposely like stopped, like pause there for a while, so that it's a bit weird and awkward, so that you will be like, What is that? I've never heard of that before. Like, it's almost like a worm that you have never seen before, right? A worm with an extra tentacle or something. You know, it's so unusual that you want to keep you're drawn to it, you know, because it's so unusual, it's creepy and weird. So by doing those weird things, they essentially draw your attention.
All you have to do is just click sign up to attend it, and I'll show you exactly step by step how you can create an extra stream of income for yourself, okay? So just click.
Sorry, it's not there. Where's the online one?
Extra stream of income is easy to set up with minimal capital, okay? So it's e-commerce, right? I'm doing a free online class right now. All you have to do is just...
Did you see that? The online one.
Right now, all you have to do is just click. I'm doing a free online class right now. All you have...
Yeah, if you don't see that, then you don't. But if you do, then you do. Let me just plug in my laptop real quick. Okay. One last thing I want to say is he repeated it twice. He repeated the income, the extra income twice.
You an extra stream of income, okay? I want to give you an extra stream of income. And this extra stream of...
Right? He keeps saying extra stream of income, extra stream of income. 3 times he said it. Extra stream of income, extra stream of income, extra stream of income. So it is one of the strategies that, you know, they draw you in, convince you that they are, you know, they know what they are talking about, that they are they are amazing or whatever. Okay, let's just go to immediately to the next one. Another one is another advert, which I managed to hold. So let's just get into this advert.
Hey, it's Ridwan, and today I'm going to talk to you guys why I use eToro. It's a social trading platform that opens up global markets for you guys to invest and trade in the most simplest and transparent way. No knowledge.
Did you see how he turned his face like that and that and that and like that? And did you see how he used his hands like that, like that? Did you see how invasive that was? And it was almost like a performance. It's almost like an actor, you know. And I understand that this is an advert and you do have to have some form of presentation, but within the span of the 5 seconds before I could skip the ad, all I saw, all I perceived was his movement. I didn't hear what he said. You know, I didn't hear what he said. All I saw, all I perceived was his movement, his gesture, his confidence, right? So to speak, his confidence. But really, he's violating you, and he's making you, he's imposing you to basically trust him, right? To give you his trust and give you your identity, basically submit. That is what they want, to make you submit. I can't stand this advert, to be honest. It's so invasive. Anyways, let's go to another one. Right. Richard Grennan. Richard Grennan is a coach, a life coach. I think he's really good. His content is really good, and he makes a lot of sense, and he has a lot of followers as well. So if you want to follow him, please do. But do be careful, because he has a little bit of this business seduction technique that I talked about. But I think it's just the way he is. It's just his nature sometimes. So I think I can look past that, because his motivation, his content is there, and his motivation is okay. So I don't mind with that. And sometimes I can look past it, and it's not always present on every video as well. So I think it's okay, you know. He's in my opinion, that's for you to decide. But for me, I think I will continue to watch some of his videos, because he makes a lot of good points that is very insightful. So, but in this instance, in this one particular instance, is the part that I couldn't get past. It's just one of his many, not many, one of his few flaws that that is very prominent. This is probably the only one that is like really bad, you know. The others are, you can look past them. It's fine because his content is very valuable, I would say. His content is very insightful and good, and it really helps because as a narcissistic abuse survivor, it really helps. But then this is the only one that I would say I can't look past because it's so confusing, and it's so it really fosters short attention span. So let's get into it. It's just a very short one, so it could be just a slip, as I might have mentioned. I think I didn't, but it could be just a slip. But I think it's very sloppy of him to not correct it, to not correct this video or documentary, to not edit it properly, because I think this is very detrimental to people's mental functioning, because it makes people it cuts people's attention span, and it really makes you like, it dumbs you down without you even noticing it, and you sort of dismiss it because it's already like 12 minutes down the line. You have been bombarded with so much, you have absorbed so much information that you decide to almost, and I almost did. I almost decided to dismiss the small flaw that he did, but it was so severe that I couldn't look past it. So I just had to. It's just a small flaw, but then it can do a lot of damage. Trust me, it can do a lot of damage.
For maintaining me.
As the red flags of narcissistic abuse are something you feel rather than see. The interaction with the person will lead to a sense of anxiety, a sense of potential danger, even though you can't see the danger, and a kind of self-doubt where you're going, this seems to be this way, but they're saying this, but it makes me feel different to what they're saying. So they could be telling you something nice and paying you a compliment, but somehow you feel threatened. They could be saying that they're doing something for you, making a sacrifice for you, and yet you feel ripped off, you feel conned. So if you outright take revenge on them and deliberately make an effort to take revenge on them, they will make a project of you. They will make a project of punishing you.
Okay, did you see that? Sorry.
Because he
Sorry.
promised me to.
Did you see that? It was he didn't make sense. He was, at first he was talking about cognitive dissonance, right? The first thing I want to touch on is he's talking about cognitive dissonance, right? The narcissist is acting in a certain way, but then you feel that something is off. They are presenting as the perfect partner, the perfect companion, but then you feel like cognitive dissonance. You feel like two realities are existing at the same time. You feel like they are actually trying to threaten you. Their words aren't really true. They don't really mean what they say, or they are behaving in a very off way, right? That is his point. That is the point that he's building up. And then all of a sudden, he just switched. All of a sudden, he just ripped that point out, and then he just forced another point, which was the revenge, right? If you outright try to look for revenge against the narcissist, he said, then in that line, if you try to look for a revenge against a narcissist, they will make a project out of you. So what has that to do with cognitive dissonance? There is no relation. There is zero link, no link at all. And it was such a big cut that I was like, what? I was completely confused, and it dumbs me. I could feel like my brain was kind of the circuit is just not working right. It's almost like it's dumbing down. So it's like he's talking about cognitive dissonance, that the narcissist is deceiving you by giving a front, of perfection, but behind that you could feel in your gut that it's not real. So it's that double reality, and suddenly all of a sudden he talks about revenge. What? There's nothing to do with revenge. How does that match? There's no match. There's no transition. It's just, there's no pause. It's just very sloppy. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's just sloppy editing. I don't know if it's just I don't know what it is, but it's just very I just can't look past that. It's very bad because it destroys your brain. I could feel my brain slowing down, confused, like in a daze. It's really bad, and it's like 13 minutes down the video, and you're already like full on with other messages in your brain. You're already tired, exhausted from absorbing so much information that it's almost like a reflex action for you to just dismiss it. And if you dismiss it, if you don't pause and think, then you're gonna be dumbed down. Your brain is gonna be like, oh, okay, it's a slippery slope. If you accept one small thing, eventually you're gonna accept more and more of this crazy cut off, and your attention span is gonna get shorter. Your critical thinking is gonna be less and less, and you're gonna not be able to think for yourself. You're not gonna be able to make judgments for yourself. You're not gonna make sense. You're not gonna be able to make sense of things. So I think this is very I need to reproach this because this is very bad. I just need to say something about it. So another thing is he said self-doubt. Let's just go right through it again, just so you see what I'm saying. Let's just go through the whole thing again. It's not very long anyways.
Nothing more.
They have an internal judge, we call it an inner critic.
Sorry, 12 minutes I think.
Kind of gratitude to the source for maintaining me.
As the red flags of narcissistic abuse are something you feel rather than see. The interaction with the person will lead to a sense of anxiety, a sense of potential danger, even though you can't see the danger, and a kind of self-doubt where you're going, this seems to be this way, but they're saying this, but it makes me feel different to what they're saying.
Okay, another thing is that is not self-doubt. That is not self-doubt. That self-doubt is when you doubt yourself. The side effect of that is self-doubt. It's almost like a side thing that you have to say. It's a side point. The main point, which he usually says in his videos, I'm not sure why he said self-doubt in this video, but usually when he explains about this cognitive dissonance thing, he would say the term cognitive dissonance, and he would say the term confusion, right? He would use the word confusion because the narcissist is portraying this benevolence, this great generosity, but at the same time they are violating you. So these two superimposing realities is happening at the same time, creates confusion, not self-doubt. No, it's confusion, it's cognitive dissonance. Self-doubt has nothing to do with anything. So I couldn't let this pass because this is almost like programming you to be a certain way. By saying self-doubt in this sentence, it's almost like making you doubt yourself. It's almost like inserting that self-doubt into you in a certain way. I couldn't deal with this. I'm not sure why he's so weird in this 1 minute, but his other videos is like very sensible and good content. I'm not sure why this happens. I'm not sure.
So they could be telling you something nice and paying you a compliment, but somehow you feel threatened. They could be saying that they're doing something for you, making a sacrifice for you, and yet you feel ripped off, you feel conned. So if you outright take revenge on them and deliberately make an effort to take revenge on them, they will make a project of you.
You see, revenge. What has that to do with revenge? I don't see the connection. There's no connection. Okay, the next one is, alright, to show you how sensible he is in his other videos, I will show you, and also I just want to quickly touch on how his body language, right? It was like very like going through the screen, as I said just now, like a bit violating almost. But he's not like that in all of his videos. So some of his videos I find is a bit intrusive. So I just want you guys to be aware when someone is being violating to you. Don't just accept it and don't just submit it. Acknowledge the feeling that you're feeling. You need to acknowledge it. Acknowledge how you're feeling when he's doing that to you, right? When someone is, can you imagine if you are at sitting across him and he's putting his hand on your face like that, right in front of a face like that? how would you feel? You know, it's violating your personal space, and that is a basic human right. You don't get to do that to someone. No. And you don't get to give someone their right is their right. You know, you don't give it to them, you don't take it away from them, is what they have forever. Okay, anyways, he's not always like this, so anyways. And Dr. Carter, he's the one that that I talked about. The people who give their content without being invasive, who present in a very non-judgmental way, allows you to make judgment for yourself, allows you to make of it what you will of his content. You know, he's very sensible and he's very calm, and he doesn't invade you, he doesn't intrude, he doesn't invade you. The way he talks, the way he speaks is very calm, and you can see that you can see that his true intentions. If you watch his videos, a few seconds is not enough, but if you watch his videos, you can see that you know, he's very honest. You know, he's honest and he really wants to help, and his motivations are aligned. Everything is aligned. His motivations is right. You know, it's correct. His delivery is correct. is not correct, not just correct, but is moral, is ethical. You know, it's ethical. Okay. And other channels like Permission to Exist, Inner Integration, Melanie Tonya Evans, you can watch those videos as well. Melanie is really good at, especially, but Inner Integration as well and Permission to Exist, they have great content, and they are the same as Dr. Carter, which has great content as well. They present their content and they present their opinion, which is very strong opinions, by the way, but they don't impose it on you. They don't force you to adopt them. They don't use like covert, seductive, intrusive methods. You know what I mean? They don't need to do that. Okay. All right. To show you that this Richard Grennan guy is not always that invasive all of the time, I want to show you this video that he make, which makes a lot of sense. So he's not always so I want to say annoying, but he's not always so intrusive. But anyways, let's just get into this video. About 3 minutes.
July.
Sorry for the quickness, but I just want to. All right, let's just get into it.
1963. I found out about this by coincidence.
Sorry.
There is a CIA counterintelligence interrogation manual called Kubar that was dated to July 1963. I found out about this by coincidence, synchronicities. I'm interested in the subject, but I've never heard of this before. And this technique is called the Alice in Wonderland technique. I found out about it because somebody came on my channel and they wrote some troll comments, and they were pretty virulent. And so I went and looked on their channel, and there was a video that they liked that was of somebody talking about the Alice in Wonderland technique. And I thought, that's interesting, I've never heard of that. So I started listening, and there's actually an official technique developed by the CIA to interrogate people. And it doesn't state this, but it uses Gregory Bateson's double bind theory of schizophrenia to interrogate people. What do? Typically, you have 3 interrogators. You bring the person to be interrogated into the room, and you have the 3 interrogators immediately start to badger this person to be interrogated, with nonsensical questions. The pitch and the tone and the pacing of their questions will not match the subjects which they're covering. Oftentimes the subjects that they're asking the person being interrogated about are nonsensical. They go nowhere, they mean nothing. The purpose stated in the interrogation technique is not just to obliterate the normal. The purpose is also to replace that which is normal with the mind-bogglingly bizarre, so the person goes into a state of deep trauma that is so awful they would rather give up their secrets and return to a reality that makes sense than have to continue with more days. It takes days for them to crack, usually. But then deal with more of this babble. Based on what we know about psychology, based on Gregory Bateson's double-blind theory of schizophrenia, this should work very, very well. It's called the Alice in Wonderland technique. This synchronicity came off the back of a video where I said, look, if you feel confused in a relationship, that's a sign. Not a guarantee, but it's a red flag for me. If a client comes to me and I don't know what it is, I don't know up from down, all of my coordinates have disappeared, I don't know what's going on, I thought love was like this, and they're confused as fuck, that to me is a sign that something is really, really seriously wrong in the relationship. I can't diagnose what their partner has, but I can say this relationship isn't healthy. So this is a real technique that's been written down and is out there in the world. Relies on the double-blind theory of schizophrenia, not developed by a psychologist, but by an anthropologist. But also there is something called cognitive dissonance, and it's extremely unpleasant for a human being to live in a state of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance essentially means the bad feeling you get when your map of reality doesn't match the reality that you're faced with. There's a story, I've never really told this story.
Okay, so we talked about confusion and cognitive dissonance, right? Which is when your map of reality doesn't match the reality that you're facing. So that makes a lot of sense to me, right? And a lot of his other videos makes a lot of sense as well. But that one, this one, oh, I can't stand it. I don't know, you know? I don't know what it is, but at that moment he was being very incoherent. He was being very incoherent and destructive, you know, destructive to your psyche, because he's cutting off your attention like that, switching from one topic to another without a proper transition, especially when you have been given like sensible information all the way and expect the flow to continue, but then he just cut off like that. It's very detrimental to your brain cells. So I feel like he needs to do some better editing, or maybe it was, I don't know what it was, but I don't know what it was, you know. Just be careful not to fall for these not to say fall for, but not to accept, you know, these cognitive dissonance, as he said. So we need to question it, you know. We need to question it, and we need to not accept it, and we need to just process it the right way. And we need to tell ourselves that not everything that we are being given, not everything that we are receiving is sensible, you know. Not everything that we are receiving, even from sensible people, even from people who has showed their credibility, who has a good track record, they can slip at times and give us things that don't make sense, or things that clash. Maybe they're nervous, or maybe they of poor editing, or whatever the reason is. We need to keep vigilant about these things. We can't be sloppy, you know. Whoever the person is, however long we know them, however familiar we are with them, however sensible they are, however credible, we need to keep an alert mind, you know, not to just accept whatever things that we are given. Okay, the next one would be stepping out of the box, right? This one, all right, I just need to show you quickly the comments from this guy's this scammer's, I really want to say he's a scammer, this guy's video. So the comment was CK Lim, I can't remember. Give me seconds. Right, it's not showing now. CK Lim. Okay, I don't think it's showing now, but anyways, I wrote it down. So CK Lim, he wrote for this video's comment, he wrote, scammers always start out by stating facts. So people who are gullible will think he's credible. So they always start out by stating facts, and they give you all of the content, all of the credible things, all of the good content starting off, so that you will believe them, so that you will buy into it, right? And once you buy into it, that's when they cut loose. That's when they leave you in the wind, you know? That's when everything, the mask falls off and everything. But as I said, this guy is a known scammer, and people have said in the comments, if you read the comments, people have said his service is terrible. You know, you can check his channel, you know, and it's gaming, by the way, and he's talking about you know, how to improve your income, how to improve your sales and your business, right? His business is nothing to do with gaming, but his category is gaming, you know. And a lot of people say his service is terrible, and they don't get proper response from him or his team that they were promised, you know, one-to-one counselors or mentors, but those mentors didn't reply, or the service was so bad that they received a reply that was very late, and that was very weird, and the ads that they put up on Facebook was banned, you know, things like that. So I think this guy was a known scammer, so we need to be aware, you know, that scammers always start out by stating facts. And there's this thing called peltering, where people talk about a lot of truthful ideas and things that make a lot of sense, but in the mix of it, they add some embellishments, they add some false, some lies, some you know, some manipulation ideology, some weird beliefs that they want to insert into you. So in the midst of all those truthful factors, in the midst of all those truthful facts that they give you, they add in some lies and some corrupt beliefs, so that you will accept them as well, you know, because you have accepted all of those great things that they said. Why not this? Because, you know, if they say it, it must be true, because they have proved themselves time and time again to be so credible. So why not, you know? So why not right now when they're saying this shit, basically? So we have to be careful of that, right? And I think, as I said, this Richard guy, he might not sound credible here, but on his other videos, he sounds very sensible. So I don't know what to make of him, to be honest, but you know, I just want to give this notion of be careful. Be careful what you hear and what you buy into and what you purchase as well. Just be careful what you support, basically. Be careful what you give your identity to, right? Be careful what you identify with. Be careful, because that's more important, right? If you give the person money, it doesn't matter, right? If you support them financially, if you support them yeah, financially, or in whatever manner, in you know, by commenting or whatever, if you support them through verbally or financially, it doesn't matter. But what matters most is your identity. If you sell your identity to someone, if you adopt their ideology and you adopt their beliefs, that is a huge thing, that is a huge deal, because you're basically changing your personality. You're basically morphing yourself to suit his ideology, to, you know, to adopt his beliefs and values. You're basically changing your identity, and that is a very indiscernible and very covert and very difficult to perceive. Is a very serious thing, you know. It's a very serious thing that is difficult to perceive. So I just want to make you guys aware not to sell your identity, right? Your dignity and your integrity, right? To put things through your mind before you believe something, you know, however credible or familiar the person is, and however loyal they may seem, or however sensible they sound, right? Okay, this one, Another thing I want to talk about, which is the second last one. So I have two more things I want to talk about, which is Agenda 21, which we'll get later, and this cancer thing, this cure to cancer that David Icke is talking about, that is being bombarded, criticized by another journalist. So in this video, I want to show small clips, which is like a total of about 5 minutes, or 3 to 5 minutes, probably 5 minutes. You know, to give you a better picture of it, I will show like clips of 5 minutes to show the thought patterns, the nonsensical thought patterns that the journalist goes through in order to discredit someone who has an idea to cure cancer, right? Who has a not to cure, but a suggestion, right? A suggestion that something can cure cancer, can be a remedy for cancer, and requires more work, more research work, right? So he's trying to push forward research in this area that cures, that supposedly, that in his words, can cure cancer, right? So she's trying to discredit that through an article that she writes that makes no sense, basically, you know. So just to let you see how the thought patterns of nonsensical narcissists work, I want to show you this video. So let's start with, let me just get through my notes. Start with minute number 4. Sorry about this. No, another advert. Oh, another advert.
Hey, it's Ridwan, and
The
today
same
I'm
advert.
going to talk to you guys why I use
consensus. And he also suggested that a machine that he's used, basically an electromagnetic machine, was an aid. You didn't say it was the cure. It was an aid in his survival or removal, if you want to call it, of a cancer that he had. Well, as the comedian Peter Kay said, you'd have thought he'd have walked into your house on Christmas Day and pissed on your kids. It was ridiculous, the idiotic response and the condemnation of him for having that opinion. An opinion, by the way, that can be supported by the nature of reality and how electromagnetic technology can make you ill and it can make you well, depending on the kind of energy, the kind of frequencies that it's giving off. But I'll get into that and how this works. I mean, I don't know about Noel Edmonds' machine. I've never seen it, never used it. But I'll talk about the principle on which this kind of stuff works. And I've been...
Right. Okay. So he talked about the electromagnetic cure, right? It said that it could be an aid. So he said that it makes a lot of sense because electromagnetism, there have been research into it as well. Electromagnetism can affect your health. So because of the frequency, the vibrations, and the fact that we are energy, that our body is made up of, vibrating energy particles that vibrate. We are basically an energetic field, So electromagnetism could possibly help prevent cancer or cure cancer. So let's go to number 2, which is 9.
The scalpel key creation. Anyway, Jan Moya speaks. She starts after a long course of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, a friend of mine has been
Oh,
given...
sorry, my bad. I need to show depth of the system. 610. Sorry, mistake. My bad. She said something, the journalist said something before, so I need to show that first.
Inside themselves. And it's always sad, one way of putting it, pathetic is another way, of seeing slaves to the system running around defending the system that enslaves them. And that brings me to Jan Moyer, a journalist, says here, it must be true, on the Daily Mail newspaper. This was the headline: Noel Know-all, or Noel the Know-all, insults every victim of cancer. What? By looking at possible causes of it and possible remedies for it, how is that insulting anyone? I'll tell you what's insulting the victims of cancer, and that is having trillions and trillions of dollars spent decade after decade after decade, given in tins and given in endless ways to apparently find a cure for cancer. And after all that money, all that research, we're still left basically with poison, what one doctor called weed killer, chemotherapy, which destroys the immune system and opens you up to further cancer in the future and endless other diseases or problems which the immune system would normally sort out. And radiation. What is one of the known causes of cancer? Radiation. I know, let's treat cancer with radiation. And after all this money...
Okay, so he basically talked about Noel is the guy who proposed that electromagnetic waves can cure cancer and that more work need to be done in that area. So so the journalist said that this statement or this proposal by Noel, which is the scientist, is basically an insult to the work that they have been doing, or an insult to cancer patients, right? So and David said basically what would be an insult would be would be to dismiss any other possible routes of any other possible routes of solution to cancer, and to just keep doing what we are doing without questioning other possible solutions. And even what we're doing right now is not even right. He said that chemotherapy is detrimental and it opens up to other possible diseases, which I'm not sure of, but I still feel like you can't just dismiss another possible solution like that. It's like total dismissal. You're not even looking at it. You just say it's an insult to cancer patients. And you can see afterwards at 9 minutes the way she justifies it is very is non-existent. She doesn't justify how his solution, his proposal, is an insult to cancer patients. It's a very flimsy, it's a very poor debate. She doesn't have a point. You can see later. I'll show you now.
Speaks. Radiation. Anyway, Jan Moyer speaks. She starts, after a long course of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, a friend of mine has been given some bad news. The grueling treatment has failed to wipe out his cancer, and now he must have a bone marrow transplant, which is very sad for her friend. But she's starting out an article which is about to condemn Noel Edmonds for talking about what he believes works for him and what he believes can be a contributory factor to cancer, which is our state of being, our state of mind, our state of emotions. She starts it out with an example of someone who has had the so-called conventional treatment, the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy, and it hasn't worked. It's extraordinary, the thought patterns these people must go through.
So, she doesn't make sense. In other words, she's trying to say that she's speaking gibberish. So she says, at first she says, his solution, his proposal, is an insult to cancer patients, and then she supports that by saying that her friend who has gone through chemotherapy and all of the other conventional cancer treatment failed, failed to be recovered from, failed to cure from cancer. So she's basically saying that the current treatments to cancer doesn't work, and that is a basis for rejecting other possible solutions. It doesn't add up. There's no link. There's no connection to those 2 points. That solution is an insult to cancer patients, and our solution doesn't work. How does those 2 link? How does this support that, and how does that support this? There's no connection. Like it's like a circular block and a square a square hole. It doesn't fit. So anyways, I think that's all for the gibberish. So now we are going to the UN Agenda 21, which is basically this covert hypnosis, this covert strategy of every nation and every state to control everything there is to control. Private property, your water, your food, your possessions, your job, everything, basically everything. So it is an agenda to control everything for the 21st century. That is why it's called Agenda 21. And it was as she says in one of her videos, Rosa Coyer, if you want to follow her, please do. She works for the UN, I think, and she's trying to expose this Agenda 21 that's still going on, which was previously announced, I think 2012 or something, that it was what do you call that? It was terminated, but it wasn't terminated. It's still going on in the shadows. It's still going on in the shadows, and she has exposed it because she knows what's going on in the UN, and she's trying to make more people aware and trying to stop it. So this is what I want to share. I'm going to share like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of this. I'm ending this video anyways, so maybe 10 minutes of this over here. So let's just get right into it.
And my topic, what I speak about is, I'm Rosa Corey, and I'm from the United States, California. And my topic, what I speak about, is one of the most vitally important issues of our age, and that is United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. And as I'll be talking about tomorrow, it is the inventory and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. And this is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It's a United Nations plan. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And so many of us around the world think that, well, sustainable development, it just sounds so great. Isn't it about recycling and creative reuse and creating energy and food resources for everyone? And the answer is no, it really is not. It's about moving populations into city centers, concentrated city centers, and clearing them out of the rural areas. So I found out about it in a very unusual way, actually, because I spent my career as a legal witness, as an expert witness for the California Department of Transportation. I'm an expert in land use and land valuation. And my specialty is in eminent domain valuation. So, of course, I was valuing property for the government so that the government could acquire that property for road projects. And what I found about 10 years ago, or 10 or 13 years ago, was that land actually, it was very difficult to say what it was worth because you couldn't know what people could do with it because they were being restricted from using their property. And as I explored that and found that it wasn't just in the San Francisco Bay Area where I was working, it was in fact all across the nation and the world, I looked behind that and I found United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. We created the Post-Sustainability Institute in order to educate people about the economic, social, political, and environmental impacts of communitarianism on the world. And communitarianism is that concept, that social and political construct that says that the individual's rights should be balanced against the rights of the community. And of course, the community is that amorphous, undefined community that we, when we talk about community, we think we're, of course, part of it and that, it's a positive thing. But really, community is constructed. It's constructed of non-governmental organizations, corporations, and government in order to dictate and regulate what it is that happens around the world. And we, as individuals, have literally no influence on that unless we are in agreement with it. If you dissent against the community, against communitarian law, or against communitarian social tactics, you're rejected and basically made an outcast. And that is something that we wanted to expose to the world. And the reason that we created the Post-Sustainability Institute was in order to sue. We sued our local government, and right now we're suing higher up in order to stop regional plans, because regionalization is the stepping stone to globalization, and globalization is the standardization of all systems. So that includes water, law enforcement, education, energy. All systems have to be brought into harmony in order to control them all. Because when systems don't meet, when they're out of balance or not in sync with one another, they can't be controlled centrally. And the goal of Agenda 21 is one world government and total control from a central unit. America, the United States of America, is really under attack right now. We, in the United States, are, the U.S. landmass is about 2.5 times the size of Europe, and has roughly half the population, just over half. That landmass is huge, and about 75% of the population lives in large cities. The goal is to move everyone out of the rural areas and into the large cities, and to destroy representative government, and to move it into to a more to government by unelected boards and commissions. Now here in the EU, of course, you have, you've already moved to that position where it's an erasure of jurisdictional boundaries, an erasure of national boundaries. And that is the goal because, as Zbigniew Brzezinski said in 1995, you can't just impose globalization pell-mell as a total movement. You have to do it incrementally, and the way to do that is through regionalization. And in Denmark, for instance, in Denmark, well, every nation that signed on to Agenda 21 has its local Agenda 21 plan. People in the United States are completely unaware of this. If I go out and talk about this, the United States press attacks me and calls me a conspiracy theorist, which is totally ridiculous. It is a conspiracy, but it's not a theory. It's a fact. Here in Europe, it's openly spoken about, local Agenda 21, and of course here in Denmark, the Aalborg Principles, 1994, and then Aalborg plus 10, 2004, was the European Roundtable for local Agenda 21 was held here, and the principles are public-private partnerships, which is fascism. And this is how it's implemented on the ground, is through this joining together between corporations, non-governmental organizations, and governments in order to cut out the actual individual, your voter, and instead to take that to a level where we literally cannot penetrate. And this is the goal. So this is already far progressed in Europe. The three pillars of United Nations Agenda 21 are economy, ecology, and equity, the three E's, the social equity. And everyone sort of thinks that they know what that means, the idea of social equity. It must mean that, well, everyone's going to have access to clean water and clean air, and no one's property is going to be used as a dumping ground because they are at a poverty level. But really what social equity is about impoverishing huge portions of the population and bringing down the developed nations. And while this sounds like, it sounds almost like in the United States, you'd call that a right-wing point of view, a conservative right-wing point of view. I personally am a liberal. The idea that that something this drastic, this radical, would be happening worldwide without people knowing it. All you have to do is look at austerity measures, restrictions on transfers of wealth, additional restrictions on land use, ability, to produce, to use your energy, your water, your industry. All of this is happening in developed nations. So when you have your infrastructure attacked like that, it's going to have a tremendous impact on your ability to prosper, as well as the idea that that everything that we're looking at now is destined to collapse our economies. Because the idea, this is a corporatocracy. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world. And what major corporations want in this fascist development is to be able to have full movement of workers without borders or boundaries, to be able to move their goods through without regulations, and to reduce wages. And so this is the goal. So this is what you find with social equity. That's code for social equity for this movement and reduction of the population. So, and of course, economy and ecology is about bringing into balance economy. These are the three circles: economy, ecology, and social equity. And where they meet in the center is balance. But really that balance is a communitarian balance. So it's not balance of well-being of the people. What it is it's a balance for corporations so that they can exploit and control and have populations in an area, in tightly packed, dense areas, so that they can be surveilled and managed. And this is what that balance looks like as far as the development of a totalitarian state is. I think it's
So, totalitarian state, guys. Watch for that and try to fight against any oppression, any forms of any forms of forceful oppression. Try to not comply to any rescind. I'm not sure if I'm using the word right, but try to not to conform to any form of tearing apart at your rights, taking away your rights. Don't participate in that, and fight back when you have to, but within reason. And sometimes we do need to fight back. The best way to do that is to speak up, speak your truth, but also we need to kind of stand our ground as well, and fighting back in a way that that retaliates. We need to retaliate in a way that doesn't compromise our dignity, that doesn't compromise our values, that isn't way too violent or intense. We need to retaliate in a sensible way. So I think I'm gonna end there. If you want to join me on another live stream on Friday GMT 2 a.m. Same time, Friday GMT 2 a.m. At Patreon, I'll be diving into chapter 2 of the Dark Side of Personality book, which is a clinical and psychological perspective of it, which is a very, I would say, very comprehensive look into narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So, but mostly on narcissism, I think. But chapter 2 will be this Friday. I will cover chapter 2 this Friday. And if you want to join me, please do. And I'll be doing dance therapy in 10 minutes after this. So if you want to join me for that, please do, for narcissistic abuse recovery. And that is all for today. And I might do more live streams now on, moving forward, and less videos, because the editing is a lot of work, and I'm having a lot of trouble making a video. I find live streams much more easier, and I find more motivation doing live streams because I'm learning as well. I'm learning, and I'm helping others learn at the same time, and curating content in a way that I find beneficial for my audience. So I might divert into more live streaming and doing less videos, because you know, it's very taxing to do those videos, and I don't find it financially beneficial for me as well, because it's not really going anywhere financially. So I think I'm just gonna do more live streams, and if you want exclusive live streams, you can go to my Patreon page, and please support me at my Patreon page if you want to hear more content. If you want to continue fighting against narcissism and you know, fighting for your rights, then look online for other resources as well. But please continue to support me if you want to hear more from me. There's a donation link in my YouTube channel, channel page as well. If you want to donate, please do. No amount too small. So I'll see you in briefly for dance therapy if you want to join me. And stay mindful, peaceful, and powerful, and may inner peace be with you. Bye. Have a lovely day.